So recently, I just watched Twilight again, and I had to film something about it. I had to look at it as at least you know contributing to something in my life because it did not contribute anything but so bad it's good entertainment. It is really bad. It's still as bad as I remember. Um, but I forgot how it is still entertaining. It's actually fun in how it's a really fun train wreck movie, is what I'll say. The two main problems with this movie was just the writing and the acting alone. And the acting felt like it was being weighed down by how poorly it was written. I can't even really give any of these actors shit because I think Kristen Stewart gets a really bad rap because of these movies, and I think Robert Pattinson has kind of had to go so far in the other direction in order to be taken seriously as an actor, and it worked. And even though this did launch his career and made him who he is today in a lot of ways, this is the worst movie that he's been in ever. These are the worst series of movies that anybody could have been in. Kristen Stewart is actually a fantastic actress as well. I think that she gets a lot of I think she got a lot of shit, and she completely redeemed herself tenfold, like completely, proved herself and proved how good she can be. So the main shock of this too was that it was directed by the woman who directed Lords of Dogtown. And when I looked that up, I was shocked. I was really shocked to see that because Lords of Dogtown is one of my favorite movies. Not just favorite skateboarding movies, but one of my favorite movies ever, just because of how well done it is and how the whole movie feels and how well made it is. So that was a huge shock for sure. I couldn't get past how awful every bit of this was. I think the one thing that was decent about it was, like, I want to say the style of it. It's like so campy, but that's also, I don't want to say that's not a bad thing because it is. It's really awkward. It's so weird, but I kind of find it charming as well in that way. I can't explain it. I think like some of the cinematography is decent. Honestly, there are certain moments that are that you could see from a technical standpoint. It could have been decent. It could have been really really good if it had just been approached differently. It felt like it was approached in a very poor way, in a very amateur level. The main thing I would point out with the writing is the dialogue feels so weird. I've never read the book, so I have no idea how close it is to the dialogue that's in there. But it was something else, man. It's one of those, if it came out 20 years earlier, like in the 80s, it could have gotten away with how silly it was. If it was a made for TV movie, it would be a completely different story, I suppose, because it's kind of on that level, or if it's like almost a good version of that. It's almost like a really decent Lifetime movie or something. Like all Lifetime movies are garbage, right? But it's that if it was a part of that, it would be like closer to the top of it. So the funniest thing about that is how every bit of the dialogue feels super forced and artificial and just not human at all. All of the characters feel extremely wooden and empty and nothing. Like, I do not feel anything from the characters in this entire movie. It's crazy. I think the only character and the actor that kind of had a little bit more to work with to his benefit was the guy that played the dad. Bella's dad he's kind of the only thing that I was holding on to throughout the movie, and as far as how comfortable I felt when he in whatever scenes he was in. Any of the scenes that her dad was in, I was just like, okay, now it's feeling like a movie, kind of. Somewhat feeling like a movie in those moments. So that was pretty funny to see that. But again, I can't even blame the actors. I can't blame anyone except the writers and the director, because I'm really shocked that she just screwed the pooch on this one. Look up her name in a second here. she totally screwed the pooch, and was the reason that this movie is just a piece of crap, because it doesn't feel like it. The main problem with it is that it doesn't feel like it knows what it wants to be. I know that can be said for a lot of movies, I suppose, but it doesn't feel like it knows. It's got like all these different vibes going on constantly. It feels like every scene is from a different movie or something like that. I have no idea what the fuck they were thinking. Oh god, it's like 2 hours long too. I forgot. Her name's Catherine Hardwicke. And again, she's not bad, clearly, because she directed Lords of Dogtown, which is like a 10 out of 10 time period, like a 10 out of 10 period piece and skateboarding sports movie. The only thing rough about Lords of Dogtown is Johnny Knoxville being in it, I suppose. But regardless of that, my point is she's clearly good at making something, or she clearly is good at having a vision for something in that way, if it's very specific, I suppose. But with this, she just didn't. I mean it when I say it feels like one of those too many chefs in the kitchen, potentially. Maybe she and the producers and a bunch of people were trying to, because this was a big fucking deal. This is, after Harry Potter began and before Hunger Games kind of happened, and that huge shift of from the early 2000s, all these teen movie series things that were happening. Twilight was just as much a part of that as those movies were. I'd be crazy to say that it wasn't, because this was a big deal when these movies. I mean, even though these movies are pieces of shit, they made so much money. They clearly succeeded in what they were trying to do. Because a lot of people love them too, from what I've heard. I really gotta go take a sip of water. That movie I have so much to say about it that my mouth is literally getting dry from how much I want to say. So, this movie was just as much a part of that era as those movies were, for sure. And my point being with all of that is that this movie clearly has its place, and it has a specific category that it's fitting. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's really wonderful in a lot of ways too, as far as like how important this movie could be to someone from a coming of age standpoint, or just from a nostalgia standpoint. It wasn't a bad thing watching it from that point of view as well. It was kind of interesting actually revisiting this and remembering where I was when I watched it for the first time, remembering how all that felt at the time. It was nice. It was actually really nice in a lot of ways. But holy shit, yeah, this movie is so backwards as well. There's just no denying that. There's no denying how absurd and weird. The whole movie feels like a fever dream in a lot of ways. It doesn't feel like a movie. It doesn't feel like it's from planet Earth. I have no idea what the fuck to think of it. Except that what I will say out of all of this is what I said earlier. It is really enjoyable to watch, regardless. It's really fun to have commentary. This is the perfect movie to, if you're drinking with a group of friends and want to just shit on a movie and rip it apart because of how stupid it is. This is the movie to do that to. You got this, you got The Room. This is definitely up there with The Room from a fun bad standpoint, as a lot of people like to say nowadays. Fun bad is always great, too. So, yeah, this movie's editing is, I think, another thing that needs to be talked about. The editing is absolutely fucking impatient, is what I want to say. The editing feels like the movie is so afraid of you getting bored that it constantly goes from setting to setting and moment to moment. And none of the moments breathe. I feel like none of the moments have a second to really let the audience digest what's happening and feel like we're really there. The problem with editing things too quickly when telling a story is that you don't feel like you're supposed to feel like you're there with the characters, and you're supposed to feel as if you're going through that in the present moment with them. And when you're editing things too quickly, you're not letting the audience and you're not letting the viewer have a moment to be in sync with it. You know, you want to feel like you're in sync with what's happening in the story, and that you're riding that roller coaster with all the characters and what's happening. So this movie doesn't ever really get to that point. I mean, just in the background, you can watch. I pulled it up for you. You can watch this shit in the background. Just look how many cuts there are. Look at how much it goes from line to line, and how it just rushes everything. It feels like it's rushing the whole book, and it's not. It's like they wanted to put so many things in and were afraid to cut anything out, when some stuff could have been done a lot quicker. Like for the baseball sequence, they could have literally just cut to them, like maybe one of them running, and you think they're running or whatever. I don't know. Actually, maybe that is how they did it. No, I'm pretty sure like they all are just walking there, and then they start playing baseball. It's like they could have just started in the middle of that, and that sequence could have been certain moments that should have been trimmed to be shorter, and then other moments that should have been dragged out a little more. I don't know if there's much else. I don't know if there's anything else to say about this movie. I think I've said enough, honestly. But from an artistic and a technical level, this movie just didn't do it for me. It didn't do it for me at all. I can't reiterate enough how wonderful it can be as a good fuck off movie that you don't really like give a shit to pay attention to. You want to throw it on at a party, and everyone just kind of like half watches it and makes fun of it and shits on it. That could be a really fun time. That would be the highlight of the night, probably. But there are a lot of people that would take this shit seriously and probably wouldn't like that too. So you got to make sure you're with the right people, whether you want to watch this for real or watch it in a fun way. Look at this scene right here. Look at this stupid shit. My favorite part of this story is, now this is a reminder, it's good that I have this pulled up because this is reminding me of all the things I want to say about it. I think my favorite thing with this movie is how everyone just accepts how these things happen without questioning Edward or the Cullens at all. No one questions that he just put a dent in the fucking car there. Look at that. How does he not question like that's impossible and that they should be dead? Like they should literally have been crushed by the truck or whatever was going to happen. They're seriously injured. They clearly would have gotten seriously injured, but no one bats an eye at the fact that Edward just stopped a very heavy truck flying at them at that speed. I'm just amazed at that. I'm amazed at the acceptance that all these characters have, and the blind acceptance, I should say, that all of these characters exhibit. Yeah, I'm amazed. I'm amazed that so many things got past production and into the editing room. This is one of those movies I wouldn't have blamed them if they wanted to reshoot the entire thing or whatever. Like if they wanted to, got in the editing room and realized how rough it was. But there's no way. Now they had put so much money into it at a certain point, and they had to like commit to whatever they were doing. That's the problem with this is these types of movies, you don't really get that time to digest it as well on your own as a person being a part of the production. You don't really. I can see this production just being thrown together so quickly because of course they had to take into consideration having to film all of them. They even split like the last one into a few parts, multiple parts, just like Harry Potter and Hunger Games did that as well with Mockingjay. But I understand, I kind of can sympathize with that mentality that they had to like get these movies out quick and make all their money while it was on fire, because this thing was on fire. And I knew many girls that read that first book at least and always had a copy of it, and it's insane how culturally impactful this movie was and how literal dog shit it is at the same time. There's There's not really much else to say. I think I've ripped this movie apart enough, so let's just cut it there, I guess, right? See this if you want to have some fun with it, but this is not cinema to me.